Hey, this is Anthony. Before we start episode 41, I want to mention there will be moments where I sound a little different from in the recording, excuse me. This is because there was an audio and internet issue on my end that affected StreamYard where basically it did actually capture what I said, or it basically made the audio like incredibly muffled to the point to where that you couldn't actually hear anything for some reason. And I'm actually still trying to figure that out now. And I didn't realize that until I was editing the episode. And because of that, I basically had decided to re-record a bunch of my lines for this episode. So if you're wondering why I sound different in certain parts of the episode, that's why. I did want to re-record the podcast again with a bunch of the guys because this was already our second attempt of doing it, and I decided I thought it was pointless doing it if it was only like 3 or 4 minutes of dialogue. So this is why I just decided to just redub it for the most part. So there it is. Hopefully it's not too bad, and I'm gonna try and make sure this doesn't happen again. So but there it is. Sorry about the inconvenience. Hopefully this doesn't happen again. But on with the show to episode 41. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Hello, everybody. I'm Anthony along with Chris and a new member of the podcast, Blake. And this is Hard Knock Hawks. This is the podcast where we talk about our favorite NBA team, the Atlanta Hawks, and sometimes other stuff in the NBA too. Before we start, we want to remind you to like, share, and rate the podcast as always to help our podcast grow. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the recently released schedule for the Atlanta Hawks 2025 to 2026 NBA season. And we are also going to be discussing all the trials and tribulations that they could be facing and more. But first, let's introduce a new member to the podcast. Blake Rogers is going to be assisting us on the journalism side of the show, as he will be writing articles for the podcast about the Hawks and will also be filling in when one of our guys or more is out for the show, like Chris and not Chris, excuse me, sorry, Chris. When Marco and Leon is out, like they are currently are right now. So Blake, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Or I should say, what's up, Blake, since I already introduced you. Sorry.
Well, I appreciate it, Ant. Chris, appreciate you guys welcoming me in. Known you guys a little bit, especially from the Twitter side of Hawks Nation. Spent some time with you guys in spaces as well as some group chats. Gotten to know you guys pretty well, but really excited to finally, get to sit down and have some more thorough discussions. Had a little bit of a podcast myself, so I'm kind of familiar with it. Love Atlanta sports pretty much. I'm an insurance agent by day, Atlanta sports fan by night. So really excited to sit down and discuss some deeper thoughts that people can kind of relate to, not only you guys but myself as well. Especially on the Twitter side. But I'm really excited to hopefully get the podcast's journalism side started up. So it's something that I think kind of gets overlooked. So hoping we can boost it up and grow it a little bit.
All right, thank you so much, Blake. As usual, once again, thank you so much for being on this podcast. Uh, I can't wait to hear your thoughts here and or for some of the articles that you're going to be writing on here. It's going to be great having you on here. But now we're going to start discussing some of the topics we're going to be having on here. Our first topic we're going to talk about is a player that was recently added onto the Hawks roster. Hawks signed 23-year-old Nafali Date to a 2-year, $4.5 million offer sheet. It's not an actual, contract, but it's just an offer that they just gave to him. He signed from the Houston Rockets. He played for the Houston Rockets G League team, the Grand Valley Vipers, for a year. He averaged 15 points, 9.8 rebounds, and 2.2 blocks on 74.3% shooting. The Rockets could match the $4.5 million that the Hawks offered him, but considering how the Hawks have signed the Dante, it may be really difficult for them to do that. So it's most likely that Dante is going to be our 15th man for this roster. To give some more facts about him, Nafali Dante came from the University of Oregon, played 4 years on the Oregon Ducks. He had the third longest wingspan in the NBA draft for 2024, was 7 feet 6 inches. He's 6'10, 260 pounds. He went undrafted. And like I mentioned, he played for the Grand Valley Vipers, which is the Rockets G League team. So I'll ask you, Blake, since you're new, we want to start with you. What's your thoughts on the Hawks signing Nadali Dante to this team?
I don't hate it. Don't really, I had to do a little bit of research on him. Didn't know much about him, but to me, I kind of get the same vibe that I get from him as I did Clint. It's just, now this team is something they're kind of transitioning their front court, their center rotation to what Quinn needs as well, which is some spacing. So they've got that with Porzingis and Okongwu now, but I didn't really have a problem with Clint. It's just I thought, to me, he got paid a little too much for what he could produce, because he was kind of limited with his knees and injuries, and his age was starting to get up there. He was becoming a veteran. But to me, it's I think it's a kind of a lower risk, possibly high reward, third option center. To me, he college is much different than the NBA or G League. But when he was at Oregon, his last year, he shot from the field the highest that he ever has on the most attempts per game. He shot almost 70% from the field, which is something that is, we like to see, because some of us get a little PTSD from seeing Clint miss so many wide open layups and dunks and floaters at the rim. But 9 rebounds as well. But I think he can provide a bigger body in the paint when need be. And we might see him towards the beginning of the year, because we're not really sure what is going to happen with Jalen when he comes back. That torn labrum, it's tricky rehab. And you obviously, with his track record the past couple of years, you can't afford to have him down again. So he might be on a minutes restriction when he comes back. So you might see Dante get some minutes here and there to kind of fill that front court need. Depending on matchups and what Quinn sees. But to me, I think he can be a big presence in the paint. Kind of because something the Hawks need, in my opinion, is when Jalen's off the floor, is they still lack some rebounding. And me and Chris and you even say it as well. Sometimes we mention that they need another wing to kind of fill that gap. And to me, I feel like a bigger body that can go up and grab you a rebound, play the paint a little bit when need be. I think Dante could be a really good fit here. But obviously we won't know until he gets on the floor, gets going. See how he fits into that system. But he's very physical, big size. He's almost 7 foot. I think he's 6'11". If I read that right, he's like 230 pounds. Very muscular guy. But I'm excited to see what he can do.
What do you think about the signing, Chris?
Well, yeah, I mean, I want to shout out Ansi, I think, for making another headsy play to start, right? Like, it's a team in Houston who probably is tight on money right now, so it's unlikely they're going to match the offer sheet. You did it after you got all your pieces, well, most of them essentially in place. So, right, you don't have like an offer sheet holding anything up. So, shout out to Ansi making a smart play. The player, I don't really know too much about him. I have to watch more film. I've just seen a few clips, some pictures. He's got the archetype is more or less what you want, right? It's, especially from a third big. He's huge, really strong guy. Looks like he's a bit of a vertical threat. You always need vertical spacing with Trey. I think that's probably one of the things you're missing with Clint gone, right? And this is a guy that most of what I've seen is him dunking on people or catching lobs. And uh, if I put that with Trey Young, I know what I'm going to get, hopefully. So really just want to see him play some tough defense and rebound and run and jump. And with KP possibly needing some days off throughout the season, Jalen maybe needing some too, right? You need some bodies there. They needed a third big anyway. So, yeah, getting a cheap guy that has all the physical tools. Hopefully they can coach him up, get him doing what they need to do. I mean, to be fair, we don't know if he's ready or not for the NBA because that Houston team was so deep. It's hard for many guys to break into that rotation. So he could be better than some people think.
And
we'll
to
see.
be fair, and I forgot to mention this, he was there in Oregon for 4 years, so he's a senior, so he could already be NBA ready. Now,
this guy's been coached.
I actually
hard
believe he was a
for
redshirt
years,
freshman.
right?
Yeah.
The technique should be there, hopefully. So he should understand what they need from him, especially with how limited the role is. So it's interesting. Look, if he's catching lobs off like Reed Shepherd, I think he and Trey Young should be able to do a little bit of whatever they need. So it's a solid move. What about you, Ant? What do you think?
I think, like you said, Chris, having a potentially really good vertical threat as a third or fourth backup big is just gonna be a really good thing for this team, especially if someone like Porzingis is out for this team. I don't know how much playing time he may possibly have, simply because you have Onyeka, you have Asa Newell, you have Mohamed Gay. So I generally just expect him to just be more or less gonna be in the G League for a majority of his time. He's probably gonna be the 15th man, and that's just okay. I think for the most part. Well, not I think for the most part. That's just gonna be the way it is, basically. And I think that's fine. Um, for him, it's just gonna be a way for him to build up his defensive skills with the Skyhawks, and with how young he is still. That's just gonna be a way to hopefully improve, and maybe we can actually see if maybe he could potentially be more than a third or fourth big, or more than a 15th man, maybe possibly in the future. I think seeing some of the highlights from what I've seen, I just love seeing like the way he just moves in like transition line. Like he does have, like you said, like a lot of vertical pop, and that's really just makes me interested to see if you just put him on a court with Trey, like how well he could possibly play, because he's already has like these high, really efficient numbers in the G League. So I think he could possibly be really good right now. It's just I need to see more like on defense like right now personally. I probably want to see like more clips on him on defense before I like really make a true judgment. But overall, I think this is like a good signing from Anzi Salah. For the most part, that I think is just like a good bet that you can just get a cheap third big man for this team. So I thought good job, Anzi. So does anyone have any more thoughts about Dante before we move on to the schedule?
Just wanted to add something. Chris, I thought he made a very good point. Getting getting him a real point guard out there instead of catching lobs from Reed Shepherd. I think that could really benefit him. But I think the Hawks offer more spacing at times than Houston did. So I think that could kind of benefit him as well. Maybe get him some mismatches in the paint on the pick and roll, because Trey loves. I mean, he is one of the best in the league at doing that, getting a mismatch on himself. Clint, we saw it with him; he feasted on him. Especially he did it all the time against the Knicks. Running that pick and roll when Josh Hart was at the 4. He would Trey would have a field day with him. But it's exciting to see what they can do. And I agree with you, man. I don't think Onzi has missed on a signing yet.
Yeah, for us, yeah. Basically, I think he's had a really good summer. Like this has been basically a transformative summer for the Hawks, basically this year.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like about him is he's really going for the role players that this team, the roster kind of needs to fill a little bit of a gap. I thought the Nikhil Alexander Walker signing that was, I mean, just phenomenal. And I was really excited about the Luke Kennard signing. Because I think looking back at what really worked for that Eastern Conference Finals run and that whole 2021 campaign, Bogey was a big part in that. And it was to the point where he was such a threat out there from the 3-point line that whole Philadelphia series, he was playing with such a bad knee that he was out there just as a decoy. He wasn't out there to play and shoot. He was out there just to draw somebody on him to open up a little bit of space. And Luke Kennard's one of the best shooters in the NBA. I mean, he's up there on the all-time 3-point percentage right now. I mean, so Onzi's really done some good things. I really appreciate what he's done, trying to sign some role players because I think Landry kind of got away from it a little bit. He was really trying to make a splash and just really get some wins or try and get something going. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But I feel like for once we have a pretty complete roster. It's just kind of plugging a few holes here and there and really seeing what you can do. Because on paper, I mean, you're a threat this year.
I'll say two things before we move on to the schedule. About the Luke Kennard thing, I think Luke Kennard obviously is a really good player because he's a connective passer in shooting, but I don't see him really being super useful in the playoffs generally because of his defense. I'm interested to see what they do with him because honestly, I think he could be just such a defensive liability next to Trey that it just makes me wonder whether or not that they're even going to bother playing him unless they're absolutely desperate for offense. And as a defensive Landry somewhat, I think he did the DJ trade. I think he was just too conservative at points for the most part. And that him being just too conservative just cost him not being able to just do any. And ultimately, it's the reason why that we weren't able to, actually move on from anything for the part, especially like during the trade deadlines where we try to like make some big moves that we weren't actually able to do anything basically. So it's just stuff like
I mean, I was gonna say just on top of that,
we could just talk about again like see. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, honestly, he's made a bunch of moves, but he hasn't really tied up much future money, which is nice. So,
exactly.
If they ever try to do something, they can.
Yeah, that's true too. So we'll see.
Yeah, there's really a lot of different things that you can do, especially next year. I still don't know how he got that pick from the Pelicans. But you have Porzingis on a 1-year deal, so if it doesn't work out, that's just freed up money for next year. And then if you want to re-sign him, you have that hopefully a top 3 pick. If everything falls our way, plus you could re-sign KP, but we'll see.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and talk about the schedule because I think that's gonna be really interesting for Hawks because there's a lot of really interesting facts I written down here about the schedule. So on Positive Residual, a site that has many data tools on the NBA, it has stuff like where you can measure the strength of an NBA schedule just by looking at data for altitude, how many miles the team travels, stuff like that. It shows that the Hawks have a 0.487 1,000th strength of schedule, which would make it the third easiest schedule in the NBA overall. Only the Denver Nuggets and the New York Knicks have an easier schedule, according to them. The Hawks will only be traveling 39,514 miles, which is 22nd in the NBA. The Orlando Magic are traveling the most miles with 55,141. They have 10 rest advantages and 10 rest disadvantages, which is basically the median for the league mostly. They only have 13 back-to-backs, which is the least amount in the league, with about 4 or 5 other teams compared to last year's league high 17 rest advantages. They're hosting the Toronto Raptors opening night, and they have 13 national games. They have, let me count this right, 7 games on NBC or Peacock. They have 4 games on Prime Video. They have the MLK Day game back. So it's a whole bunch of stuff that, you know, the Hawks are getting this year. There's clearly a bunch of high expectations for us. I'm going to start with you, Chris. Do you have any highlighted things that you find about the schedule that are like
any notables with the schedule? I mean, I'm not a big schedule like release guy. I think it's overrated in like every sport because we play basically the same teams every year. But I mean, it is nice that I think we have like a lot of rest down the stretch, or at least a lot of home games with the guys comfortable. Get some of that road stuff out of the way early while they're healthy. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the whole like strength of schedule thing at the beginning of the season, it like doesn't even really make sense to me, like the concept, because we don't know like who's going to be good. Beginning of the season, somebody's going to go 6-0 that nobody expected to, like out of nowhere, like every year. So,
I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
The thing about NBA, I mean, the Hawks could like just be amazing right at the stretch. Now someone's strength of schedule is jacked up because we were like a 41 team last year. You know what I'm saying? So, I do think it's in our favor, which is great. Hopefully it holds true and we have a good road to 50 wins. And it'd be nice to chase that. I do still think we're somewhere around 45, depending on health and all that, how guys gel. But yeah, no, I think the fact that we do have a lot of home games on the stretch is good, and I think that should pay off in the long run. Okay.
What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, to me, I was obviously we're excited for the home opener. First game of the year, want to be at home in front of the home crowd, get off to a good start. I do think that might be a tough one. Healthy Toronto team, I think BI might give them a little bit of a problem. Especially if Jalen's on a minutes restriction coming back. But I will say I am excited for the Orlando and OKC games. Obviously we want to see what this team can do, how they stack up against some solid teams when they're healthy. That I think that's good that they're playing them right off the bat. I don't like that it's a back-to-back, but we'll see. But one thing for me that really seemed odd, and I don't know the last time that the Hawks have done this, but they make 2 separate road trips to LA this year. Usually when they go out to LA, they play the Lakers and the Clippers back to back, but it is 2 separate road trips. I think the Lakers road trip, I think they go the entire West Coast. I think they start in Denver, go up to Golden State, or go over to Golden State, and then they go up to LA and then all the way up to Portland.
So the first road trip is in November. They start with the LA Clippers and they end it with it's LA Clippers, Sacramento, Utah, then Phoenix.
Okay.
In November. And then the second one is in, let me look at this. It's Denver, Golden State, Lakers, and then Portland. So it's basically like split up in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. So instead of just
It's
one long
weird.
road trip, it's too many ones. And that it favors the Hawks in a way because
Yeah.
they're not in a long road trip anymore. Like
Yeah.
the last few
I
years.
mean, looking at it, there's a couple longer road trips. I know we have like 5 out of the 7 games to start the year on the road.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a bad thing because that means, especially with how tough March and April are on their schedule, that means you're going to have more home games. So to me, it's I think one thing that we always want to see with the Hawks is getting off to a good start. Coming out the gates hot. So hopefully they can do that, and it would benefit them because like I said, March and April is pretty tough for them. But Chris, I completely agree with you. I think depending on health, if they're completely healthy this year, I don't see why you couldn't get to 50 wins. But it's just health is tricky. It's things happen. You just never know, especially some younger guys that have some bounce like Jalen. Zach's he's learning to use his body a little bit more. Things are gonna bumps and bruises are gonna happen. You're gonna have some guys miss a week or two. But depending on health, I mean, if you can get to 45 wins, more than a successful season. I think that's for me. Especially with how wide open the East is. Top 6 seed.
Man,
That's gotta be
y'all are
top
talking
priority.
crazy. I'm not expecting 45 wins. I'm expecting 48, 49 in this East with this
Hey,
roster.
there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I'm expecting big league stuff this year from the Hawks. This East is wide open.
Oh yeah.
Like what other competition do they have other than the Cavs and the Knicks?
Hey, contract year for Trey. That All NBA. That's how he gets paid on the next one. He's going to be coming out firing.
It's just harder to win in the NBA, I think, than some people realize. Even if the couple teams are like down, I mean, there's still just the amount of games they're trying to win and being healthy and everything clicking. It's just a lot has to go right. I mean, hopefully they can push really high numbers. But this is a team there's still some guys that are learning how to win. And I think there's still just going to be some growing pains. The offense, to win a lot of games in the NBA, you have to be able to like really score or just have just absurd defense. And we're not the absurd defense yet. So I think
we have Porzingis, we have
together.
Dyson, we have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I mean,
they definitely have an identity now as a defense, but I mean, you don't.
The identity is getting better. I mean,
yeah. Hey, I mean, it's people see the Hawks on the schedule now. It's often it's going to be tougher to score, but they don't have a Kawhi out there, which is if you had a Kawhi out there, then you might have an insane defense at that point.
And I mean, the thing about there's matchups in the NBA, and they're gonna playing Western Conference teams. There's some teams that are gonna be better than we think that were below us. I'm not sure who exactly it's gonna be off the top of my head, right? But yeah, no, I mean, 45 plus is not a bad number. That's a lot of wins. That's more years than not. It's going to be top 4 in the East. The way the East kind of churns, it's a very physical conference. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's I get it. It's more fun to say 48 and 50.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm just not there yet. We'll see. I just got to see him play a little bit to like have the confidence that they're just gonna, because you really have to kind of be a bit of a machine and reel off like some really good win streaks. And this is a group that we've seen just be up and down over
That's
the
fair.
years.
That's fair.
And they're still young, so there's the potential to be flat some nights, and even just offensively if the shooting isn't there. And if you're depending on shooting, there's gonna be nights where the jump shot just isn't there. So
true.
No, but look, don't get me wrong. I'm rooting for 50. They could just look. The guys we need to take leaps could do what they need to do, and they could absolutely be there. I think that's what's fun about this team. That's what's kind of fun about young teams. You never know exactly what you're going to get. I think adding the vets that they did, there's going to be a little bit more consistency. I think you might see more of that group that you kind of saw at the end of last season that could shoot it a lot better. And I think the hope is that you throw Jalen Johnson into that and Kristaps, you have some big nights and you're going to be able to win a lot of games. And I definitely believe that they will be a better team than they were last year. But 50 is just so many, and you have to beat really good teams to do that. And it's just, that's what's hard about it, because you have to beat the really good teams to like actually be at 50, like most of them. You know what I'm saying? That's the only issue. And if you go 500 against those guys, like that's how you kind of end up at like 45. So.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, if they had this same squad last year and you had a year to build some chemistry, I think 50 would be, I mean, obviously, if they're healthy the entire year, 50 is definitely in reach, just on paper. But if they had the chemistry last year, played a year and they're coming into this year being a second year with everybody, I think it'd definitely be more obtainable. You might put 50 as okay, 50 and maybe 48, 49, and like a 4 seed. But I think people sometimes really exaggerate regular season a little bit. And I mean, obviously you have to play it to get to the playoffs, but top 6 seed, if you can get there, I mean, if you can get hot, I mean, like we saw, Indiana, I mean, whoever gets hot, they can roll right through the playoffs. I mean, Hawks were with Lloyd Pierce. I don't even remember how bad the record was in 21. Then, they went on the streak with Nate McMillan, and then, they got hot in the playoffs and took them to the Eastern Conference Finals. But, I mean, Indiana did it in the Cup games a couple years ago. I mean, whoever gets hot, and Chris, like you said, I mean, one guy can take over a game. I mean, Jordan Poole loved to torch the Hawks on from 3, him and Kuzma, and thankfully Kuzma's in Milwaukee now.
I feel like the Hawks, to me anyway, are almost there, right, into breaking that ceiling. They got they got good role players. They got players like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They got Luke Kennard. They got Porzingis. If Jalen wasn't injured, they probably get 45 wins. I think they're really close. I think you guys are really underestimating this team. Honestly.
No, I don't disagree that they're real. I would say this is probably like one of the more balanced Hawks teams they've had in a long time. They're going to match up a lot better with a lot more teams than they have in the past.
And I will say this: there were a lot of close games last season where if they just had a few more guys, it would probably went the Hawks away.
That's a fair point.
No, I'm with you there. There's also like some of those other teams did deal with injuries too, like Pistons and Magic did.
That's fair. That's fair.
But what I'll say is, like, for me, it's more or less the formula I'm looking at, more broad strokes, right? The Hawks are going to have to play team ball. And team ball is tough because some nights everybody has to be on, like, really, and there's not too many guys that can scale up if Trey has an off night that we're just like you can pencil them in for some buckets. And I do think Jalen has a chance to like kind of become that guy. And I'm trying to visualize the passing and how all these guys can really work together to really put together a really nice offensive system. But it's just there's a certain amount of firepower you need to really like know you're going to win in the NBA. Just because these guys are so good, man. And like any given night, someone can just go off. And if Trey is off, some dude on the other team puts up 30, we're going to be like in a really tough game, even if everything is like kind of running the way it should. Now, Dyson could come back like a lot stronger, right? In that game, pop a little bit, and maybe he's finishing a little bit more. But yeah, you really need someone to like for the look at the Cavs. Like the reason they were so like good, they just had so much offense, man. They shot the ball like the Celtics. They have so many guys that like can just pop every night. I think our guys just are still on the early side of kind of having that capability, and I think in a couple years, I think you would have more confidence in these guys taking the load off of Trey night to night. But yeah, it's still just a lot to ask for this team to score the way they're going to need to. Now, hopefully, like they added a lot of shooting. I'm really hoping that the shooting is there and that they can kind of supplement the lack of like a true second option and just like fire away. Because I mean, you do have a great orchestrator in Trey, and I think KP and Jalen are both so versatile in how they can get offense and how they can contribute to offense that you can really have a really fun group. But yeah, it's just until you see the guys take the step, it's tough for me to like pencil in the wins for it. That's probably the thing for me. I just got to see them play a little bit.
It's just wait until you don't believe it until you see it right now, basically.
Yeah, I do think
that's fair. That's fair.
What's the over under for long? It's like 46.5. I think that's a really good number. Yeah. I would probably take the under if I'm putting my money on it. But if you really like the Hawks, I understand you taking the over.
I'm taking it over every day, man.
That's a lot of wins. This like 50 wins, dude, is like you could win. You could almost win the conference.
Right now, I'm going to say 48. 48.
Because 40, the Thunder and the Nuggets tied for the West 2 seasons ago at like 52. So like if it's really balanced, right, and there's no like team that just juggernauts their way through and wins 60 like the Cavs, because 60 is an insane amount of wins. Like
yeah, it is.
Really appreciate how many wins it is, and the Thunder last year almost got to 70, which was nuts. It's just really hard to win that much in the NBA, and the talent level, the amount of scoring and shooting that's around the league is what like makes that so hard, you know. But no, I like what the Hawks have done, man. They just have so many new guys that there's so many unknowns, right? And I'm confident that they're a better group. But yeah, I do think it'll take a little time to bring together, like Blake said. I mean, I think if you have the like first half of the season as you got a winning record and you're looking good, I think everybody should be interested in running that back in at least once and trying to like make some upgrades here or there, especially given the picks that they have, right? And you add some more punch to the group that they have, man. I think that could be a really, really interesting group.
Yeah. I'll ask you this, Blake, since me and Chris already gave our over and unders. Over and under 46.5 wins for Hawks.
You know, I'll give you 2.
No, 1. Don't cheap out. Don't do it. You can't cheap out here.
We're gonna say they're healthy,
man,
and I'm healthy for the most part because you know it's you just never know. I honestly think 46 is I'm going a half a game under. If I had to put money on it,
Blake,
I would go half a game under.
Are you kidding?
Now, if they stay healthy the whole year, I would go over. But it's just
serious.
You just can't
half a game. Okay,
we can't. Based on previous seasons, injuries.
So you're just gonna bet literally half a game under.
Yep.
The thing is, like, you got to account for how teams are going to adjust, right? And if the Hawks do like start like thumping people with like Trey and KP going on, someone's gonna be like, all right, let's see what these other guys can do for a few games. And there's going to be adjustments they have to make throughout the season. And this is a team, like to Blake's point, like they haven't played together that long. So when they have to answer these questions throughout the season, there could be nights where like it takes some time to get there. So it's just there could be some ups and downs maybe early on. Now don't get like Trae Young with shooting, like we do generally buy like that, right? Don't get me wrong, I buy into that. But there's just so many new guys. And this is like the second year that they're like they've done a great job turning this roster over. But when you turn a roster over, sometimes there can be an adjustment period. So I think it's going to take a few games. Man, that Brett Usher guy, by the way, I just want to throw this out there. Was like that was a diabolical post he put because he was like a totally healthy Hawks team. Like what glaring issues? I'm like, one of our biggest issues is health, dude. So like that really like kind of it's almost a really unfair question.
My argument is basically this, right? So in this whole schedule, a lot of our easier games, quote unquote easy, you know, since we don't really know like what teams are going to be popping off, right? A lot of our easier games are going to be basically in the middle of the schedule. So Washington, possibly Chicago, I'm looking at it, Toronto, stuff like that. You know, we get through our like, you know, early season troubles, like the team trying to gel, like through all that stuff, right? In the beginning of the season. And if they figure it out by then they start to be able to rack up wins at that point during that easy part of the season, basically. I can see that potentially happening, especially through some of these stretches where you have a lot of these games like they're playing against Brooklyn, Washington, Portland. Like it's stuff like that where I could just see them just rack up a bunch of wins easily and where they could potentially get 48 wins.
I know it's like sounds we lost to Portland last year one game. Like
we always lose to Portland. We always lose to Portland. We always lose to Portland. We always lose to Portland.
Like so that's like and I know people probably view me as like a doomer and like I'm always like we need more. But like that's kind of why I say we need more because there are nights where you like run out to Portland and you can't just like blow this team away early and like they stick around, right? And these teams get confidence and these are really talented guys and they just like can hit you with you're like crap. Now we're in a fourth quarter competition with this team on the road and that you just sneak into like some L's that way. So I do think now don't like if you tell me I'm getting 65 games from Kristaps for sure, and I'm getting like 75 from Jalen and 75 from Double O and Trae and Dyson are pushing 80, right? And everybody is like really, really healthy. I can definitely see a world where they're around 50 wins, man. If
we're getting 75 games from OO and 65 from KP, we're going to the finals.
Yeah, right. That's and if you want to have that 50-win season, like you're gonna need those guys to be that healthy. Because I mean, think of how many games you have to like. If Kristaps only plays 50 games to win 50, like you're not gonna win every game he plays, right? So even if you win 30 of those 50 games, you got to win another 20 of the 30 games he doesn't play. Like that's not that easy. So we really need our guys, and hopefully Dyson and Zach. Because those are the two, I think, probably with the biggest question marks in terms of like what they're going to give us next year. Like their leaps probably determine how many games over 45 that the Hawks can really win, right? I think with Na and Luke, hopefully with Luke, I think you know what you're going to get from him in terms of a basketball player at this point, right? He's like almost 30, maybe one of the greatest shooters of all time. When you look at it, I know he's not going to like be heralded as that, and the volume probably isn't there to like put him in the conversation with like, you know, those guys. But the numbers are crazy for Luke. And Naw kind of seems to be a guy who like unlocked some things in the last couple years, and he's headed into like his physical prime, and he's got a lot of experience at this point. And he played on a team that played some serious basketball games last year. I think KP coming in playing like these guys played serious basketball. Like these are, I think all those guys are on teams that have won almost 50 games in the last couple of years. So I think you added a lot of consistency there, but it really does come down to what Dyson and Zach are going to give you, because those guys are going to be playing a lot of minutes, and they can really make a jump. Experience and strength alone would be big for both those guys. I think their games would pop just off that. And hopefully Zach got the reps he needed last year, right, to really kind of find his positioning defensively. Looking forward to see how they all kind of fit in with KP. Maybe they can be a little more aggressive. We can get out and run even more, because I think that's going to be big for this team. It's a team that really is going to need to up the pace. I think with Kristaps and Double O also, you get like some passing from the bigs. So I think the half court might have some more flow, but I think this is a group that really is going to have to get stops and run. So yeah, it's about Dyson and Zach, what they kind of become on the perimeter as a duo. If they can really just start terrorizing people, I think this team, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Dyson and Zach kind of, their leaps determine where you're really going to go. But I think another thing to kind of add on to that is, Trey he kind of ties 2 points for me together. If you look at it, KP, his time in Boston, he played with Tatum, who was really, you know, he was pretty much their point guard. But he's not built like a point guard. He doesn't really play. He doesn't play like Trey at the point. Jaylen Brown isn't really their main ball handler. He can go get a bucket when he needs it. But I mean, you're rolling Peyton Pritchard out there, and they had Marcus Smart, but it's to me, I think one of the biggest things, and especially Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he played with Ant. Ant's just a straight up dog. He's not really a playmaker. He's a drive it down your throat and lay it up, or just go up and slam it on you. I mean, he could shoot it too, but to me, I think one of the biggest things, and this ties into health as well, is those guys realizing and getting them on the floor with Trey to see how easy their workload is compared to how they have been playing. Um, to me, it's Trey can turn around and close his eyes and throw an assist. I mean, it's nuts what he can do passing the basketball. It's KP had to kind of work a little bit for to create some lanes for Tatum and Jaylen Brown a little bit, and kind of get his own shot a little bit, because he didn't have, because Trey can essentially create any shot for anybody on the floor. We've seen it with Jaylen, but Jaylen's just a freak out there at times and can create his own shot no matter who's guarding. But I mean, Dyson got a ton of open looks from the three this year. But it's Walker. I think he's played with Ant. He had to kind of do a little bit of off-ball stuff to get some looks, and kind of help that offense flow. I think especially Quinn out there. I think when they realize that their workload is less, but they have more success, I think that's when they can really, hone it in and realize, okay, we can do this, this, and this, take the workload off of some of our bodies, and, but still put up just as good of numbers or better than what we have been, especially, still win games, that's the main thing. But, to me, it's, once they can figure that out, and especially, we go back to last year when you put DeAndre Hunter off the bench, you kind of limited his workload a little bit, because, that knee was a thing that was kind of holding him back in the starting lineup. But I think we might have potential to see a little bit of a breakout for some of these new guys coming in when their workloads are kind of lessened a little bit just from Trey's talent and playmaking abilities, on top of what Quinn can do. Because Quinn and Trey are, I mean, they it's like Trey and Jalen, the PB and J, but it's Quinn's a wizard on offense. But I'm excited to see what they can do. Really got the team together on paper. Just need to build that chemistry throughout training camp. Wouldn't surprise me if that last game we see maybe a half a quarter of the starters. Just get them on the floor out there. But I'm excited see what they can do this year.
Yeah, me too, Blake. I agree with everything you said. Before we end this, let's talk about the NBA Cup real quick. I was surprised we actually talked about the NBA schedule for 30 minutes. That's crazy. I didn't expect that long of a discussion. Um, so the NBA Cup, the Hawks are in East Group A with the Pacers, Toronto's, the Wizards, and the Cavaliers. The games are on October 31st. We play against the Pacers at home. November 7th versus Toronto. We play at Toronto. November 25th, we play at Washington, and November 28th, we play versus Cleveland. Correction, on November 7th, we play versus Toronto at home. So that's our group basically. Pacers, Toronto, Wizards, and Cavaliers. I'm gonna start with you, Blake. What do you think our chances are of basically making it out this group?
I would put them about the same as last year. I feel like you really have one team that you have to get through, and it's Cleveland. We really don't know because Bi, we don't know what's going to happen with him. Opening night, obviously he'll be healthy, whole team will be healthy, but by then, may tweak something, be out, or be playing through an injury. You just never know. And that's the same for the Hawks as well. Matchups could look a little bit different, but they beat Boston without Trey last year. I mean, so any game is possible. I think to me, just getting past Cleveland, because I think Washington, you kind of match up with them, well now. Indiana, you don't have Halliburton. Siakam, I think he'll still give you some trouble. But you don't have Miles Turner anymore. So I think that's something where you can kind of get a mismatch with them. But I really want to see this team make it to Vegas again, just to kind of get that playoff vibe, that playoff experience with this team, kind of build that chemistry for when June and July, or excuse me, May and June roll around. It'd be awesome if they could. Really enjoyed that Bucks game last year. Just they were, you could tell they were young. I think Jalen kind of, lights were a little bright for him in that moment, just because he kind of needed to step up and be that number 2 option. And it's just in that moment, that's asking a lot of him. I mean, it's nothing against him. It's just he hadn't really been put in that spot. But yeah, I mean, I think they have a legitimate chance. Now, is Cleveland at home or is it on the road?
Cleveland is let me check. It's at Cleveland, excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't really think Hawks play Cleveland about the same on the road and at home. I mean, they've beat them both times, or excuse me, both places. I mean, the playing game, the 22, I think it was 22 because that was a Heat series. I mean, they beat Cleveland at Cleveland.
Yeah, this is not the LeBron Cavaliers we're talking about. This is just regular old Cavs. So
yeah, but I mean, They'll be good. They're always regular season merchants with, nothing against them. I mean, they play extremely well in the regular season. I mean, they got what it takes. It's just, sometimes they get to the playoffs and just kind of freeze up a little bit, but we'll see.
What do you think, Chris?
It's Pacers, Wizards, Cavs, and who's the other team?
Toronto.
Oh yeah, the Raptors. Easily forgettable. But
Why you have to slander the Raptors like that?
Oh
man,
I do like the matchup because like the only seriously good team is a team that we match up like really well with. Dyson like handles Mitchell and Garland really well, and I think Dyson or Zach kind of picking up whichever one doesn't have the ball, right, and Dyson just taking the other one. Can work well for us, and Jalen is a good matchup with Mobley. He can bring Mobley away from the rim, and we do have a new twist that we're bringing this year that they don't have. They're kind of the same group, so hopefully our scouting report is better than theirs, and we can hit them with some new stuff and 4-0 the group and make it through easily. I think it's a winnable cup placement or group or whatever. So it's way like there's no honestly. I was worried about the Celtics last year and then we beat them, so that was cool. But yeah, so I'm not really worried about the Cavs. That's one of the better teams that I do think we match up really well with, just because it's a weird league and they're small on the perimeter. They're going to be running Max Strus on Trey, so yeah,
they have DeAndre Hunter. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, Dre, yeah, they put Dre on Trey if they want. That'd be great. They do have Lonzo Ball. We'll see how many games he can play next year, but yeah, I don't think that's a team.
They don't have enough beds in the training room for Lonzo and Dre's knees.
Yeah, they're committed, but that's their problem to figure out. But I think for us, yeah, we match up well with them. Wizards likely won't be playing serious basketball. Pacers, I don't think they can keep up without Halliburton there.
I think the Pacers are honestly gonna be interesting. I don't know because Siakam and TJ McConnell and how they're going to run the offense.
The X factor with them, sorry to cut you.
No, you can go ahead.
The X factor with them is Rick Carlisle, man. I think he can completely change how they're playing like overnight. He's one of the few coaches that I think will just run whatever the group needs to run. I think without Hallie, they'll adjust it some, maybe slow it down. They could be a more defensive group.
Yeah, I expect them to be more defensive oriented, honestly, next season.
And really, their season almost is determined by what Mathurin can kind of turn into for them next to Pascal. Because if he's not or doesn't take another step, then it's going to be tough for Pascal to kind of do his thing. So yeah, I'm not really worried about them, and we got them early. So hopefully before they can figure anything out, we can steal that dub, and then 4-0 that thing.
For me in the NBA Cup, the two main matchups I will be worried about: the Pacers and the Cavaliers. Toronto, I mean, they could be healthy, but I don't trust their offense at all. Honestly, I mean, they got Quickly. Is he even still on the team? I just realized that, or no?
Technically, yeah, he's on the team.
Yeah, I mean, no. I mean, yeah, I don't. That Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, no, it's not gonna work. That's not gonna be good. I don't think they're gonna be any good. Wizards are gonna be bad. It's really just gonna be Pacers, Cavaliers. So I think we're just gonna have a really good chance, honestly, to just make it out. Probably at least be a wild card. But honestly, I think it's probably gonna maybe be 4-0 for the Hawks if they do a really good job. Honestly, yeah. It's also early in the season, like you mentioned, Chris. They can have trouble adjusting early on, so I'm wondering how they will adjust for that in the beginning as well.
Yeah, I think the chemistry that Trey and Dyson built up last year will be big, and kind of inserting KP into that foursome and then the double O with that group. I think the Hawks do have some solid chemistry built up. So yeah, I think they should be able to get past the Pacers early, and hopefully the whole offense is running nice and smooth, and they can blow the Cavs away. That's a team they're gonna score. That's the only issue with the Cavs, man. They're gonna have a lot of offense for you every night.
They got Don Mitchell, Garland,
yeah,
all those guys. So gonna be interesting for the NBA Cup. But with that, that's gonna be it for episode 41 of Hard Knock Hawks. Does anyone have any final thoughts before we conclude our episode? Blake, you got any final thoughts?
No, I think we covered it all. Appreciate you guys having me on.
No problem, Blake. Chris, you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, shout out Ronnie 2K. You horrible human, you coward. You can pay what you owe. Jalen Johnson is not 81 rated. Cooper Flag is not better than Jalen Johnson. That is ridiculous. I cannot believe they gave Cooper an 82. And Jalen and Double are both 81s. They've been in the league for years now. And this teenager, no, Ronnie, we need to talk.
Oh my God. 2 shout outs. First off, shout out to Michael Harris for figuring out how to swing again. You made the entire city of Atlanta proud of you. You're amazing, Michael Harris. Go Braves, even though you're ruining our draft pick, but that's okay. Second of all, go Atlanta Dream, win that WNBA championship. I forgot what seed you are. I think they're the number 2 seed. Maybe I gotta check again, but they're like literally the second or third best team in WNBA. We support our Atlanta Dream, so go Dream. And with that, we conclude the 41st episode of Hard Knock Hawks. We will see you in the next edition. You're ready to do the Hawk call, Blake? I guess he is.